Hey y'all, today's guest is Martin Earley. Martin is a member of the Ballroom Thieves and is also an agent at Little Revolution Artists. This was a hugely enlightening conversation for me. I learned a lot about what an agent does for an artist and what some of those intricacies, some of those behind the scenes things that we don't think about are. It is a really crazy world. If you're an artist or if you're looking to become an agent, you will really get a lot of gold out of this episode. As always, if you want to support us, you can do so at tapeclub.substack.com. All right, I hope you enjoy my conversation with Martin. All right, Martin, thank you for joining me on the J Card. I'm pumped to have you. I was doing my last minute research here, and I gotta say, I think I came up with some great questions. I think this is going to be a very enlightening conversation. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
So let's start with this. You're an agent at Little Revolution. What does an agent do for an artist? Artists might be familiar with like managers or publicists, but what is an agent? Where does that fit in?
Yeah, so we cover all of the booking any show, festival, series, trying to get our artists on support tours for bigger artists. So anything that has to do with booking, including all of the contract work that's involved with that, all of the boring stuff, and all of the data retention that comes with that. So like keeping track of ticket sales and, you know, how early in advance a show has sold out in the past so that we can kind of bring that to the promoter the next time around and, get the best deal for our artists.
And then when you are booking these types of gigs, I imagine, like you said, you're keeping track of all of this data because that's going to sort of build the case that, hey, last time we played, you gave us X amount. Now we want X plus 20% or something like that. That sounds like, you know, all you got to do is show them the numbers and then you're going to get the better deal because the numbers dictate that. Is it that? It's probably not that simple, where I imagine the deals get worse and worse as the years go on because music is, not very profitable, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting. In general, the numbers do dictate the deal. And so in general, you can say, you know, if an artist got X, Y, and Z 1 year and then is coming back and nothing has changed, you know, like no member of the band has left or, you know, I don't know, they haven't toured in multiple years. If nothing's changed, usually you can kind of count on the last data that you have. I mean, the only time that changes a lot is if there is usually in the positive direction. So usually, you know, like if there's been some crazy social media thing that has really, you know, added a lot of audience members to this artist's, to their repertoire, to their audience, then it's a lot easier to make the case that, oh, well, you know, they've got 1 million followers on TikTok now, so therefore more people are going to come. But generally, it's dictated by the numbers.
Well, that's good to hear that that people actually are, you know, or like that the venue owners or the people who run these festivals are actually listening to that. They're not sort of, you know, saying, oh, well, music's cheaper these days. Why don't you just take less or whatever? Can you walk me through a typical day for you as an agent? I'm sure there's not like a typical one. It's probably all over the place, but try your best.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it just depends on what we're working on at the time. And so if we're working on the initial booking of a tour, that generally means that I'm reaching out to promoters for hundreds and hundreds of venues. So, for instance, one of our artists recently finished their East Coast section of their United States tour, and the tour ended up being around 30 dates, and we got over 400 holds for those 30 dates. So that means, you know, for each market, I'm reaching out to probably three to five different venues to get holds for probably between 5 to 10 different dates. Once I have all those, then we can put them all into a spreadsheet and essentially check out which route makes the most sense and which offers will work best for our artists. So, you know, if we're in the beginning of the process, then it's a lot of outreach to promoters, a lot of emailing, putting together packets for each artist to show the promoters what kind of show they're doing, if they've got a new record out, you know, kind of promoting the artist in a way. And then once those holds all come back in, then it comes time to figure out the routing, and that's a bit of a puzzle, which can be really fun to figure out. What's the best route they can take? How can we minimize their drive times? How can we make things less brutal on the road? Are there festivals that we need to avoid? Like if our artists are playing in Chicago on a weekend where Riot Fest is happening, for instance, that's not going to be ideal. So we want to avoid those kinds of things. Avoiding, blackout dates like major holidays where people are less likely to come to the show and that kind of thing. And then once that's all done, then it's on to contracts and confirmation, and then giving all of the information to our artists, and then starting over. And in the middle of all that, there's also A&R, where we're reaching out, trying to find new bands, young bands, up-and-coming bands, people who are looking for booking agents who are promising in one way or another, and essentially, listening to a lot of music and reaching out to those bands or their representation and seeing if they want to chat about touring.
That part sounds like the fun part that a lot of artists love, and that like maybe people who want to become agents love, because it's people love like discovering these new bands, and bands want to get signed or whatever that means. And we're going to get to that in a second, because I do want to talk about that. I want to go back to those holds. So you said there's like 3 to 5 holds per city. Can you explain in layman's terms what a hold is? I'm imagining that's like a venue, you telling a venue you're going to be in this town for this date and asking what's the best kind of deal they can give you or something like that?
Yeah, so you have to imagine, at each market, in each venue, there are multiple bands who want to come and play there for most of the dates, especially the weekend dates. And so the way that typically works is if a venue gives you a hold, they can give you a hold with a number. So that means like if you're the first hold, then it's your show if you want it. If you're the second hold, that means there's one artist in front of you, and if they want the show, it's theirs. So, and then it goes on and on all the way to 12, 13, 14, 15, however many holds that venue might have.
And so that's, you were saying it's kind of like a puzzle in that sense, and it kind of makes sense now. So what if you're the, for example, 4th hold, but you really want to play that venue? Do you just kind of have to wait and hope that those other 3 bands drop out? Or what if they jump on? Then are you scrambling and trying to find a new place to play? Or how does, it seems kind of chaotic.
It's not as chaotic as it seems, but that works through a system called the challenge system. So if you're the 4th hold for a specific venue, a specific date, and you know you want that date, you can challenge that date. That means that the promoter from the venue goes to the 3 artists that are ahead of you in the queue, and they say, hey, we've got a challenge for this date, so do you want it or not? And they have to then, within a certain time limit, respond and either take the date or pass on the date. And so usually, if you challenge, you never know what's going to happen, because you don't know who the bands are in front of you and how badly they want that date. They might have gotten those holds just to cover their butts too, So, right. Can I swear on this? I can swear.
Yeah, of course.
Cover their asses. Yeah. I'm like, I don't say butts. What am I doing? It tends to be like the puzzle part happens there, where like, if you're getting really late holds, if you're getting like 12, 13 hold, odds are pretty good that one of those other 12, 13 bands is going to take that date. So, you want a high hold. Ideally.
Yeah, I mean, 12 to 13 holds sounds crazy. This is very similar to, so for work, I work in post-production, and there was a time, not anymore, but there was a time where I had a small little agent, nothing big, but it was a similar idea where it was like, hey, there's a hold for these dates, these other people are challenging, do you... I don't know, are you going to take this gig or whatever? For the level I was working at, it was so unnecessary, I got to say. But it's for music, it makes sense. You guys are traveling. You have to be in the city at this day. You're moving, so it does make a lot of sense. One other thing you brought up was contracts. Tell me a bit about like some of the intricacies of contracts, of deals, like for shows, I guess. I don't know the first thing about them. I've never played live, but I am very curious, like what are some of the general things that go into these contracts?
Yeah, the contracts are obviously there to protect the artist and protect the venue at the same time. So it just states all of the things that we expect to happen, all the things that we agreed to with the promoter. So that could be anything from, the set times, obviously how much the artist is getting paid, what the payment structure is. Often there are deals where, you might get a guarantee that's a smaller amount, but then you would get 60% of the gross ticket sales after a certain amount. So after the venue kind of makes their investment back, that kind of thing. So that would all be outlined in the contract. And then usually the contract has all of the personnel information too. So, essentially any information that we then would pass on to our artist so that the artist knows everything that they need to know before they arrive on site. That would all be in the contract. So it includes is there a promotional budget? Is there a marketing budget? Is there a catering budget? Does the venue have a green room? What's the situation with the green room? All of that kind of stuff, all of the insides. And then, the bigger the show, the more detailed and crazy those contracts get. But at the smaller level, it's pretty straightforward, and often, a lot of venues, they don't even look at the contract, or you might have to hound them to sign the contract. But in the end, it's there to keep everyone kind of honest.
Yeah, that makes sense. One thing that I saw a lot, it still, I guess, is being talked about, but a few years ago, there was like a really big moment where I guess the idea of venues taking a cut of merch, I feel like, was a viral thing where like everyone was up in arms about that. So is that something that is still going on? Do venues take cuts of merch? And is that something that's like fairly new? How have you seen like the relationship between venues and bands change over the time you've been an agent?
Yeah, it's interesting. That is, as far as I'm aware, that's not something new. That's been around for a long time, and it still is around. It's one of my least favorite things. I've been on the touring side of things, so as an artist, I think it's the most shitty thing that a venue can do, or among them, and also from a booking perspective, it's really hard to justify taking a cut of merch from an artist who's traveling, no matter what. I mean, in some circumstances where, if it's a soft ticket event and the event is sold out regardless of what the band is, and it's not the band's audience coming, sometimes I can see, okay, that sort of makes sense. But in most cases, it's total bullshit. And bands do all kinds of fun things to get around it.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, what are some of those things? Because my first thought was like, oh, well, what if we say, this merch technically is donation based, you can't have any of our. Does that happen, or like, what are some of the ways people get around it?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard everything from bands refusing to sell merch, and then they say, well, we can't sell merch here, so meet us outside after the show, and we'll sell out of our van. Which is, it's going to piss off the venue. Another thing would be like, just don't tell the venue. Some bands say, we didn't sell any merch. And they just invite the venue to argue with them because they clearly had a line and they sold merch, but they're like, no, sorry, we didn't sell anything.
Yeah.
All the way to faking, inventory sheets to show that you sold less than what you actually sold, and therefore you have to pay less, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, that's the dirty game of capitalism, is that everyone wants their slice even when they don't deserve it, and then you always have to figure out the right loophole to jump through to make it actually function. I don't know.
The tricky thing with it is that usually the people on the ground, like the people who are there to try to enforce this rule, are not the people who made the rule. And so often that works in the band's favor, where the people are already predisposed to not take as much money as they could. And, they don't want to mess with the artist. And so often they'll let things slide. So yeah, it can cause some weird situations.
Has there ever been, because to me the flip side of that would be like the band getting a piece of the bar. Is that something that's ever happened in your experience, or are venues very like, no?
Yeah, as far as I know, that happens in like, in massive shows, like,
that's kind of interesting, because my first thought was it would happen. I was going to say it would happen in DIY shows, like the smallest ones, but it's funny to hear that it happens in massive shows.
Yeah, it's like Jimmy Buffett used to get, a percent of the bar. And there,
those guys are drinking. Those fans are drinking.
Yeah, and he was a genius, because he ended up buying Landshark, the beer company. And he was a big player in bringing Corona to the United States, apparently. But he then, sold through Margaritaville. He sold the alcohol. He sold his own alcohol at his own shows. And so he was making money, left, right, and center. And yeah, at one point, they offered him like 105% of the gross. Like they got 100, he got everything of the gross, and then he got 5%. He got part of the parking too. So the venue was making enough money. Yeah.
And so, but part of me wonders is that's a time gone by where like now venues are probably pinching pennies so hard that no one is going to get that kind of deal. There's not even if you are someone like Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess, I mean, when it comes to those massive shows, I don't really know how those things work. I'm sure if Taylor Swift was like, I'm only playing if I get, 50% of the bar, people would be like, sure.
Yeah, good point. Okay, so earlier you brought up kind of how the A&R part of it and how like you maybe find artists or how artists find y'all. One thing I was curious about is what's the breakdown like? Like how many artists do you seek out yourself versus artists pitching themselves to you guys?
For us, it's, I would want to say like 90% artists that we're finding. And every now and then we get an email from an artist, or we get some sort of contact. But overwhelmingly, it's us trying to find artists. And we're a pretty small agency. We're pretty boutique, and so maybe that's different at a bigger agency. But yeah, it's mostly our outreach.
That makes sense, because I feel like you already know what you're looking for, and when people are sending their stuff, it's such a crapshoot. Like for our little thing we have here, we do these mixtapes, right? These quarterly mixtapes, and I'll put out an open call, and I'll just get like, I love it. I appreciate that people are sending stuff. It's so cool, but it is like so all over the place where I'm like, man, I couldn't make a cohesive track list out of all this stuff. I have to kind of pick and choose what's happening. Same with y'all. Like you're going to be dedicating a bunch of time, a bunch of effort, and you kind of have to really believe in the music to take it on, I guess. Yeah,
totally. I mean, I can only speak for us, but yeah, our first thing is, do we like the music? And if we don't like the music, it already is a barrier to promoting it, Like, yes, you can promote something that you're not a personal fan of, for sure, but it's a lot easier when you are a fan.
Of course. At what point in an artist's career is it time for them to think about getting an agent?
I think there's different philosophies here. I think once the work of booking your own shows becomes distracting to you creating your art, doing other things that are important for the business, then I would say seek out an agent. I think in the beginning, it's usually not necessary or profitable for the agent to take on a band before they have shown that they can sell tickets in certain markets. But what I usually tell artists who ask me these questions, I tell them we're looking for people who can sell about 150 to 200 tickets reliably in their hometown. And then from there, ideally, while you've kind of built your audience, your hometown audience to that level, ideally you've also built surrounding markets, within 5 or 6 hours of your hometown. Hopefully you've got some sort of draw in those markets. So whether that's 100 or 200, it kind of doesn't really matter. But as long as there's a drive there where people want to go out and play, and they've shown that they are willing to kind of put the boots on the ground and get out there, and they know what they're doing, then I think, yeah, a booking agent can come in and really kind of step up that effort and allow the artist to focus more time on making art.
It's so interesting to hear that number 150 to 200, because that really doesn't seem like out of the realm of possibilities. I mean, I feel like that is, you work hard for 3 to 5 years, like really grinding. You could probably get to 150 people in a room.
Yeah, I think it just depends, I mean, right now audiences are a little bit weird. It's, you don't know, people are going to shows a little less than they used to. So it's a little bit tricky, but yeah, I think it's totally doable. I mean, if you really work on your art and you build something and you promote it, that's kind of what's necessary right now. So,
you have a long background of being a musician yourself. You were in the Ballroom Thieves. Tell me a bit about how you decided to, I was going to say pivot to becoming an agent, but it's not a full pivot because you're still in the Ballroom Thieves. How did this agent thing kind of come up as a parallel path for you?
Yeah, I've been interested in this side of the industry for a long time. I've just been, as you're touring, you pick up things along the way and you learn things about the contracts and how that all works and advancing shows and all of these things that are sort of adjacent to booking the show. But at one point years ago, I kind of felt like, well, I've been doing this for, at that point, 8 years or so, now 12 years, but I was like, well, I should probably know the other parts of my business, and so part of it was just kind of that kind of curiosity. But then about 2 years ago, a friend of mine, Lyle Brewer, who's like a phenomenal instrumental guitar player, he reached out to me and asked if I knew anybody who could help him book some shows. And I just said, well, I can probably do that. So I talked to our agent, Greg Little, and asked him if he could give me some pointers. And he just said, well, why don't you just join the agency and learn by doing, and I'll teach you as we go. And, you can be an agent if you're interested in that. I was like, hell yeah, let's do it.
That's incredible. I did not realize that was the backstory. That is very cool. It's funny because you mentioned earlier you said if you're in a band and, maybe it gets to the point where the booking is becoming too much, taking away from your time to commit to the art, just go look for an agent. And you basically were like, let me just double down and become the fucking agent too, I guess.
Yeah.
What's the division of labor like between you and Greg at Little Revolution? Because, I saw there was a handful of artists on the roster. Do y'all both kind of work on every account, or is it sort of split up like these 3 artists are you, these 3 are me, and we're totally siloed?
Yeah, no. Right now we both work on everything. And right now, I mean, my wife and I just had a kid 6 months ago. So we're not really doing that much touring. And a couple of other of our bands are also kind of laying low. So one of our bands, Weekend Friends, they're really the band that's touring the most right now. So Greg did most of the booking for their last tour. But otherwise, I mean, we pretty much split it all up. I've been doing a lot of A&R recently because there has been less stuff to do. Except for Lyle, he's the only one who I book exclusively. But yeah.
One last question about the A&R stuff. So when you're doing A&R things, how do you determine success with the artists you bring in? Like, are y'all looking to make like a specific amount of money off of them, or are you not? I know that sounds so crazy, but I don't mean it that way. But is it like a financial thing? Is it a numbers thing? Is it purely like, here are specific festivals we want to get you to play at, and if you get those, that's success? Like, how do you think about it?
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, for me, it's mostly about trying to help artists that I really care about, who I believe in, music that I really like, people that I like. These are all important factors. So really, I'm just trying to help them grow their businesses. And so if, like, for me, an ideal situation is like steadily moving upward. So if you sold 50 tickets one year and you come back 3 months later, we want to see 60, 75 tickets, you know? It doesn't always happen that way, and it doesn't necessarily mean that there's a great decline or anything, but yeah, in an ideal world, things are steadily moving upward without, as fun as a big spike would be, you know, generally they come back down quickly too. So we like slow and steady growth. And yeah, that's how I would measure success. I mean, the festival gets are really great. Getting added to a good support slot with a bigger band is always great, but really it's for me about headline touring, and yeah, just making sure those ticket sales are on the incline.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I guess to me, like after we've had this conversation, what this feels like to me, the way I kind of am making sense of it is, you know, if you're like a worker, for example, who does gig stuff, like you having an agent would be like, that's the guy who gets you the gigs. And then if they keep calling you, it's in their best interest to get you to keep playing, to keep doing the gigs. So right. Kind of makes sense. I always forget about, and I think a lot of people maybe forget about like music. When you're a musician who's trying to be a pro, that shit is a business. That is your business. Yeah. You are an LLC. You are Ballroom Thieves LLC. You know what I mean? It's not just, we're having fun playing our instruments up here. It's that too, but it's also a fucking business. Last question before we're going to go to the mixtape. Is there any specific accomplishment agency-wise that comes to mind that you are most proud of? Could be booking a specific tour, could be a specific festival get, or like even getting someone on a late night slot or something like that.
I've just been really proud of Weekend Friends. They're one of my favorite bands, and they're out of Portland, Maine. They're kind of a punk, emo adjacent, kind of alternative rock band, and their live show is incredible. They recently, this past year, they opened for Jack White in Boston, and he specifically asked them to open for him, and so their tour right now is doing really well. Their last tour was their best one yet. We're really seeing some good growth, and I feel so happy for them because they really deserve it. They're good people, and they've been working hard for many years. So it's just great to see that, and you know, be a small part of that. It's mostly all them. But yeah. Yeah,
that's amazing. It's always great. It's just so cool to hear that kind of stuff. And I think the most important part is to remember, like, to every single day to like remember that like this is what we're doing and this is really cool. Because when the growth is incremental like that, it's sometimes hard. People don't take the time to look back and go, "Oh, I used to be down there." It's like now I'm like actually I've been growing. It doesn't feel like it, but I have been. You know, so
right.
Very cool. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get to your mixtape. All right, we're back with the mixtape. Martin, why don't you tell the people a little bit about any kind of theme you had for this mixtape, any overarching big idea?
Yeah, these are the songs that and the artists that I've been listening to the most right now. And I threw my own band in there just for a little shameless self-promotion. So I don't really listen to our music. But the other five, this is kind of what I've been listening to right now. It's not like an all-time greatest hits type thing. It's more like this is my mood in the main winter right now.
Yes, that makes sense. Now that you say that, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. This is a very main winter type beat. Okay, the first one is an artist called Gill, and the song is To What Do I Owe My Pleasure? So tell me a bit about Gill.
Yeah, Ruby is someone I found earlier this year or last year, 2025, and she had put out a new record, and I just completely fell in love with it. It was just like one of my favorite things I've ever heard. The whole record front to back is so good, and yeah, this is just one of the songs I couldn't really pick, so I picked this one. I like them all. Ruby is from New Zealand and doesn't really play in the US very often, so probably won't be seeing her live at all, but yeah, they're just one of my favorite artists right now.
How much do you rely on algorithmic music discovery to get you to these new artists that you haven't heard of, or are you on those like PR blasts where you use maybe use those to discover artists?
No, it's funny because I'm doing all this A&R where I'm trying to find new artists. I have multiple AI agents set up that essentially help find up and coming artists who are buzzy in one way or another, or who have something going on or releasing something new, and so it kind of creates lists for me that I then go through and check out. So that's where I find most of my music now. Yeah.
And so that's sort of maybe like a weekly activity for you, where you're like, all right, what am I listening to this week?
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. Very cool. I love it. Let's listen to a little bit of Gill to What Do I Owe My Pleasure?
Something that's obvious with all the skin. To what end all the skin? To what end all the skin?
Next up, Penelope Antena with The Bed Unfold. Penelope Antena, I believe, a French artist. Is that right?
Yes, I think she's originally Belgian, but she now lives in France. And yeah, I just recently discovered her and just fell in love with her voice. It's pretty incredible. It's got like some Fiona Apple adjacent sound going on. It's just really soulful, and yeah, really like it. And this is probably my favorite song of hers, but she's got a fairly new record that's much more, I want to say like Bon Iver coded, a little more electronic, a little more out there, but yeah, it's all really good.
Is this another one that maybe came up through the AI agent getting you some recos?
Totally.
Where's it getting that stuff? Where does it get it? Is it just basically Googling it, or is it like doing super deep dives, or do you know, like, does it have a place to go to get the secret sauce?
Yeah, I've set up a couple different ones, so they use different metrics to try to find things. One is is Bandcamp centered, and so it digs into Bandcamp, and I have multiple filters set up there. And then the other is kind of set up through, recently I set one up through like these year-end lists, so it kind of finds all these year-end lists and kind of digs through those to see if there's artists on there who don't have representation yet. And so that's usually what it ends up spitting out to me.
That's very admirable. I think that you're using that tech in a way that kind of cuts out a lot of the unnecessary busy work for you, because it is such a dicey subject, the whole the way AI relates to music. Totally. Recently Bandcamp did their their AI ban or whatever, and mm-hmm. I wrote something in this week's newsletter. Actually, it was sort of like spicy take, but I was kind of like, yeah, this is sick, but also where are we drawing that line? Because like it's a pretty gray area, and it's only going to get grayer. Yeah. I was like, if people are just going to be banning music randomly left and right because they think it's got AI in it, I have no idea. I said, give them their own platform, make a little Bandcamp AI section, and let them just play in their sandbox, and let the other musicians make their own music.
Totally. I do think eventually it's got to come down to people are going to want to know somehow that the music they're listening to or the art they're taking in general is human made, right? Like
100%.
I think it's such a, we could have a whole podcast about that, but yeah, I have weird conflicting feelings about it, because on one hand I'm like, if I read a book and it's the best book I've ever read, and then I find out, it was written by a computer, does that cheapen the book, or is it just still the best book I've ever read?
Yeah,
I don't know.
100%. It's a crazy time we're living in. It reminds me of like that Philip K. Dick book, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, where you're like, yeah, that sheep looks real, and that's an incredible sheep. What a beautiful sheep. And then you get really close and you look at its underbelly, and it's like a little battery pack, and you're like, that was a fake sheep this whole time? So it's very, very strange. Holly Herndon posted a pretty interesting response to all that last week, where she basically was just like, or they, I'm not sure, but Holly was basically like, hey, you know, this is sort of misguided. You know, this is a overreaction, and we don't know like what the future holds and all this. And Holly Herndon, I think, uses AI models a lot in the music.
Yeah.
So who the hell knows?
To me, I just like, I kind of feel like it would be foolish to just, you know, try to stop the progress from happening. It's like, it reminds me of people who, you know, when Napster came out, were trying to like put that genie back in the bottle when it was clear that, you know, this is here to stay. Once it's available, it's never going to go away again. So
yeah, the prevalence of that tech is not up to us, unfortunately. We're not billionaire enough to make any decisions about it. But it does bug me that like people will use it to like do the fun parts, like the creative parts. You're like, damn, like making music is awesome. Like you shouldn't just be writing one sentence and then having a song and pretending you're an artist. I mentioned this a few weeks ago on on one of the shows, but I saw something that was so funny online. Somebody was just like made a post, and you know, I think it was in a Suno or Udio, one of those AI music subreddits, and someone was like complaining that they had writer's block. And I was like, how do you have writer's block? Like, you're not writing anything.
Yeah.
You're like just writing a prompt. You're not even picking up a guitar. You don't have writer's block. Like, what the fuck? So I don't know.
I don't know what prompt to write anymore.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Sorry. We got way off the rails there. Let's listen to a little bit of Penelope Antena. The song is The Bed Unfold.
And as the bed unfolds, we see fire.
Next up, Mk.gee with Alesis. Mk.gee is one of those artists who I feel like has been around forever, but also is like got very, very hip over the last like 3 years or so. And kind of reminds me of like a modern day like Felt or something like that. I don't know how you feel about him. Tell me a bit about Mk.gee and how you got into the music.
Yeah, I got into Mk.gee a couple years ago, and just really liked his guitar playing. First of all, I mean, I found him through Dijon, because those two are buds, and so one of Dijon released a film around one of his records where it's mostly live performances, performance based, but it's really incredible. And Mk.gee is one of the players in that film, so kind of looked him up and then found his own projects, and then got into all of those. So just really catchy, really like satisfies an 80s thing for me that I really like. Those like verby, chorusy guitars and vocals, and like big echoey drums, you know, drums with some big slapbacks and big reverb on the snare. Really love that stuff.
I can't say I've listened to his stuff that much, but every time I do hear a song of his, it, like I said earlier, Felt or like the Durutti column and Vinnie Riley and that kind of stuff is what it's giving. And it kind of blows me away, because I'm like, wait a second, I thought this was like some, no offense, but like I thought it was going to be some like brain rot, like Gen Z type shit, whatever. And I'm like, wait a second, this sounds like Durutti column. Like the kids are all right.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, this is fire.
Do you know that, Blue Nile?
Yes.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of that, and I think Blue Nile was a big influence for Mk.gee, but
it's modern day sophistopop. We need more of it. I'm sure that it's around. You know, maybe that's the next wave, because I feel like for a second there, everyone was including a lot of like garage style or like drum and bass style drums in their production, and those I think are kind of, they've jumped the shark, and now it's going to be that old sophistopop sound. Let's hope. Yeah. Let's listen to a little bit of Alesis by Mk.gee.
Don't you wanna get a move on? I'm in another party, losing somebody else.
Next up, Iron and Wine and Fiona Apple with All in Good Time. When I listened to this one, I actually went and like looked it up, because I was like, this has to be a song from like the 60s, right? Like, or something, but
right.
I don't think it is. Is that it's a pretty new song, right?
Yeah, as far as I know, it's an original that came out in 2024. And when I first heard this song, I thought the same thing. I was like, this sounds timeless. And it just sounds like, you know, American songbook style kind of storytelling. And I mean, as soon as Fiona Apple comes in, it's just like, oh, all right. Her voice is just incredible, obviously. And so, but the whole story in the song and the way it's delivered is just really kind of heart-wrenching. And we saw it live last year at the Newport Folk Festival. Iron and Wine played a set with I'm With Her. And those guys did it all together, and it was just like, it knocked me on my ass. It was really great.
Yeah, there's something about writing like a good ass song. I know that sounds like so fucking whack, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like when the song is good, it really does feel like that, where it takes you back. You know, it's just so strange because that is like a golden era of songwriting, I guess, like that, what you would call the American songbook stuff, I guess. Like it just hearing that sort of, I don't know how to describe it, but just it really made me go like, what the hell? Like this is new.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know who else has really done that kind of thing. I feel like maybe, what are they called? The Sacred Souls, their music, any of that stuff, like Menahan Street Band, that kind of stuff. That's very, very different from this, but like,
yeah.
That's the kind of stuff where maybe I was like, oh, when I first heard it, I was like, wait, this is like a current band. What the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, Leon Bridges' early stuff kind of reminded, you know, that's like, wow, this has got to be 50s, 60s, you know? And, of course it's not, but
it's really cool to see artists do stuff like that, because I feel like, you know, a lot of folks won't do that for fear of it being perceived as like this dusty thing, and then it just kind of is, it's been done or whatever. So it's very impressive to do it well.
Yeah, I think it's important to keep things current and to put your own spin. Like, you know, you don't want to just emulate someone from the 50s or 60s. You don't want to just do exactly what they did. You gotta put your own spin on it a little bit. I
think that's natural, though. I think like you can try your damnest to make an exact replica of something from then, and it's not going to be, unless you're using Suno or Udio or some shit.
Yeah.
But like if you're sitting down in the studio with some friends and players, you can try to do the 50s thing all you want. It's still going to sound like you, though. You know?
Right. Yeah.
Let's listen to a little bit of it. Here's Iron and Wine and Fiona Apple with All in Good Time.
All in good time, we felt like a star.
We closed our eyes and we opened our arms.
And off the road, our own stolen car. All in good time.
Next up, Pinegrove, TikTok Darlings with their song Darkness. I remember when that 2016 album was a Cardinal, I think, was a thing. That was a fun time. And so I was very shocked when a few years ago Pinegrove blew up on TikTok. I was like, wait, Pinegrove are big now? What the fuck? Tell me a bit about your experience with this song.
Yeah, I mean, I found them similarly to that through that 2016 record and really loved it at the time and have been a fan ever since. And yeah, this is, again, like there's so many songs that I could have chosen. This is just one that's kind of speaking to me right now. It's catchy, it's accessible, it's it's got a cool chorus, which many of their songs don't have choruses at all. So this is it's a little bit of an anomaly in that way, I guess. But just really love the song, love the record.
Pinegrove was like the beginning of looking back on it now with 10 years of, hindsight, Pinegrove was like the beginning of the little DIY alt country kind of thing going on,
Totally. The y'alternative.
There you go. Y'alternative. Exactly. That thing. How do you feel about TikTok as a avenue to kind of reinvigorate older tunes and to get them kind of popping and get new audiences acquainted with them?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any problems with that. I feel like, I don't really do TikTok as much as our label would want us to do more on TikTok. We're sort of feel like we're too old for it. But, so my wife does try to do some stuff on there for the band, but she does a great job. But I'm I'm just not, I don't love social media. So, but in general for that, I have no problems with it at all. I know, the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, had a huge moment on TikTok last year, and like, more power to them. If the young kids can use it as a way to find good music that's already happened, then great.
Yeah, I think I mostly agree with you. The only thing that kind of bugs me about it is that it naturally only focuses on like one moment in a song, which that's neither here nor there. That is a product of, the world changing. That has nothing to really do with TikTok, I guess. But right. I was like shocked to find out that I thought I was all cool and shit because Silver Spring was like one of my favorite Fleetwood Mac songs. I'm like, yeah, this was kind of a deeper cut. Like, people don't really fuck with this one like that. And it's like, and then my girlfriend was like, no, that's like their biggest song. I was like, wait, what? Like, it's the biggest song. I guess it went viral. Yeah. So who the fuck knows? I don't know. Pinegrove had that moment too. I'm glad for them. I'm happy that they had that little moment, and it's always nice to see a band getting some retroactive listenership. Let's listen to a little bit of Darkness by Pinegrove. And finally, the last track, the closer, the Ballroom Thieves with In the Morning. So tell me why this one was the closer. You don't want to open it with your own band? I feel like that would have been a big move. That would have been a big move.
Yeah, I honestly, to be 100% honest, I didn't know if you were going to play them in order, so I just I was just listing them in the email, and then when I got to the last slot, I was like, oh shit, I should probably just put our song on there just so we promote ourselves a little bit. But
I'll be honest with you, if I was asked to do this exercise, I would put a song of mine on there too. So don't feel any type of way about it. Why is this the one you picked?
I like the song. It's done fairly well on the streaming platforms, and it's a short one. It's accessible. It's a crowd favorite.
How long have y'all been around?
We've been around 13 years now.
So would you say there's been kind of different eras of the band, and tell me a bit about that. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, it's interesting because now everything is kind of, pre and post COVID. COVID just kind of, we had a lot of momentum going into COVID, and we had released an album in February of 2020, and we're touring when COVID, shut everything down. So it really took the wind out of our sails in a way, and our drummer at the time left the band during COVID to pursue other things. And so, there's definitely the pre-COVID era, and then there's COVID, which is kind of a gray zone, and then there's the post-COVID. And even there now, we played with a four-piece, 5-piece for a year or two after COVID, and then the last couple of years we've been focusing on really intimate duo shows with just the two of us, and so that's again a different thing. So we're going through the eras.
Yeah, kudos to y'all for doing it, because touring as you get older gets harder and harder, and I think even when I was 25, I was very consciously I'm never touring. I do not ever want to do this. I don't want to play live. Because I'd have friends who'd be like, why don't you ever want to play live? I'd be like, bro, do you think I want to teach 5 people my fucking music, try to get them together to practice, try to drag all our shit to some shitty bar in New York for 4 people? Yep. I'm fucking good. Yeah. But, you guys got that dog in you, so to speak. So you're doing it.
Yeah, definitely. The dog is much smaller than it used to be, I think. But we used to be on the road 11 months out of the year and just really road dogging it. But we don't do that anymore. I don't think it's really sustainable, but yeah, we still love being out there. So
let me ask you one question about the Ballroom Thieves. So 13 years of making stuff. I imagine that touring can't be the only kind of revenue stream. Have y'all ever done any sync deals or sync placement or anything like that? And how does that work, just as a total noob?
Yeah, we've done some sync placements here and there. We have our label works on that a little bit here and there. So we haven't done anything anything huge, but yeah, like one of our songs was in Lethal Weapon, the TV show. So not
Nice.
the movie,
Hell yeah.
but so yeah, we've had a few placements like that, TV shows.
Is that usually a
some
thing where
movies.
like I'm trying to think of like who is the someone happens to already know y'all and know your music and they think, oh, and they're like, I'm working on Lethal Weapon, I want Ballroom Thieves in this, or is your music like a part of a library or something like that? How does that work?
Yeah, it works different ways. I mean, usually if you know somebody, that's the best thing. If you know a music director for, any of these studios or any of the shows or movies, that those are the people who make those decisions in the end. So they often submit, they ask for submissions for certain things. So they'll be like, we need a song that hits X, Y, and Z, and do you have anything? And they'll send that out to a bunch of different, reps or labels or whatever. And yeah, so it's certainly not something that happens all the time. So you can't count on it, but every now and then.
That sounds cool. I feel like we should eventually have a music director on the show. That seems like a really crazy job. Very cool job.
Yeah.
I kind of want that job.
Yeah, it would be a fun job for sure, I think. A little stressful if you're on a time limit, but yeah, it would be really fun.
Let's listen to a little bit of In the Morning by the Ballroom Thieves.
And I hold my head up high. What I need to understand is how hope fits in my head.
All right, and there we go. That was the mixtape. Beautiful mixtape. Great songs. Tell me a little bit about if there were any, what do you call them? Honorable mentions. Were there any honorable mentions?
There's an Icelandic artist named Árný Margrét. And so my sister-in-law just showed me her music, and I really loved it. So I was going to put one of her songs on there, but then I was like, I kind of feel like a fraud because I only just heard about them. I haven't really dug into it yet, so felt like honorable mention.
I love it. That's a great honorable mention. Yeah, sometimes people will throw songs on here, and I'll be like, so how'd you hear about it? And they'll be like, discovered it on Spotify. Next question. I'm like, all right, I guess I'm dancing. Let's figure this out. Cool. I love it. Okay, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to play a very, very quick game, and then we will get the hell out of here. All right, we're back with the game. The game is tried and true. It's called Firsts and Lasts. Talking about the first thing of this that you've done, and then the last thing of this. So let's start it off with music videos. Recently, MTV fully shuttered, so I figured let me try to celebrate the music video a little bit. I don't really watch them, but I know they're important. What's the first music video you remember seeing, and what is the last music video you remember seeing?
Yeah, tricky one. First one, I have a vivid memory of seeing the Cypress Hill video for Rock Superstar. I don't know if it was Rock Superstar or Rap Superstar because they did two versions of that song, but they had like a creepy circusy haunted ride kind of vibe. And
Cypress Hill are crazy. That's like the first, well, maybe not the first, but I think mainstream wise, one of the first steps into horrorcore weird shit.
Yeah, totally.
I remember as a kid,
but
I was always like, this is too much for me. I'm scared.
Yeah, I think that's the first one I remember. I liked them because they were like a rock rap crossover, which got me into rap originally. So,
Well, I grew up in Jacksonville, Florida. That's where Limp Bizkit's from. We're talking about rock rap bullshit. That was it. That was Fred Durst, dude. But very weird band. And it's what? I'm glad that stuff existed though, because make the weird shit. Make the weird shit. I love it. I don't have to listen to it. I'm glad that you make it though, or whatever.
Yeah, do your thing. I guarantee you, AI would never have come up with Limp Bizkit.
Exactly. Okay, and then what is the last music video you remember seeing?
Yeah, that's also a tricky one because, like you, I just don't really watch a lot of music videos these days. But I just saw Olivia Dean has a music video out that when you go on Amazon Prime to watch a TV show or something, it just popped up, And so my wife and I were sitting there and we're watching, and we're both big Olivia Dean fans. And so it came up, and so we're like, well, we're not going to not watch it now. So we watched the whole thing.
My attitude with the music videos has for the last few years has been sort of like almost like what Dijon did, where it's like, if you're going to make something around a song, just pick a group of songs and make like a short film about it, or make like a performance movie about it. Do something like a little, it's got to be more, because, you know, 2 to 3 minutes is that spot where like nobody gives a fuck. Like either make it 15 seconds or 30 seconds, or really make it like 15 plus minutes, because no one's going to sit there for 2 minutes to watch something that's ridiculous, you know? Yeah.
I do have some honorable mentions there, because I just recently last year discovered this artist, Mal Sullivan, out of Cincinnati, and she's just super creative and does all of her own music videos. And I feel like that's, you know, most of the more creative music videos I've seen were by artists who are independent or who are still growing. So her music videos are great, and then our friends Darling Side also have a track record of just putting out really amazing music videos.
Hell yeah. And, you know, I will just acknowledge my own bias there. It's like, I personally don't care for the format of music videos. Not to say they don't have any, value, because they definitely do. But I'm not really watching them.
You spend so much money trying to make something that then, like you're saying, like, are people really watching it? Or
some people are. Like we had who was it? It was Dan Karai. He's a creative director who works with a band called Oceanic, who are friends of the show. And he was telling me a bit about, like, you know, they have fans who like really love their videos, and that's like one of the main things they love about that band. And I was like, shit, I could never, but like, I'm glad that y'all have that. That's really cool.
Yeah,
like,
good.
Also, to be fair, anytime I've ever made a music video, it just hasn't been good, because that's not my format. I don't really care about that. I'd rather make a reality TV show. That's like way more fun to me, you know? So it is what it is.
It's impressive when people can do it well.
Oh yeah. But maybe that's the idea. Maybe instead of a music video, bands make little reality shows that go with their albums.
Now we're talking.
Now we're talking. All right. First artist you were a super fan of.
First artist, Garth Brooks.
Wow.
Yeah. I grew up in Switzerland. My mom's Swiss, my dad's American, and my dad was really into his American identity when I was growing up, because he was in Switzerland, and he brought back some Garth Brooks CDs, and I just like ate that shit up. I loved it. I still remember like all the words.
Hell yeah. And now, is Garth Brooks the guy whose real name is Chris Gaines, or is that a different guy?
I thought Chris Gaines was his alter ego. I'm not totally familiar with Garth Brooks lore, so maybe.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, it says Chris Gaines is a one-off fictional rock persona created as a movie character for Garth Brooks. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I always thought that was his real name. That's wild. So that's how little I know about him. Garth, I mean, like I said, I grew up in Jacksonville, Florida, so a lot of country music there, a lot of Garth Brooks fans there. My best friend growing up was a huge Garth Brooks fan.
I think he still is the second highest selling artist of all time. I think he's way, way up there.
Makes sense. Who is the last artist that you were a super fan of? Most recent, you know what I mean? Most recent artist.
Yeah, probably Olivia Dean. Yeah.
And how'd you discover Olivia Dean?
I found her at one point. We were playing a show, and the show was over. We were packing stuff up, and the house music was on, and there was a song that came on, and it was just this amazing song. So I Shazammed it, because I'm 38 years old, and it was her. And then my wife had already heard of her and was like, "Oh yeah, follow her. She's great." And then we just dug in and listened to everything, and she's just like a superstar. Amazing.
Yeah, that checks out. You were like, "Have you heard of her?" And she's like, "Of course I've heard of her." And you're like, "Fuck."
Damn it.
So Olivia Dean was your last music video you remember seeing. Also the last artist you were a super fan of. Can Olivia Dean pull off the trifecta? So the next category is artist you saw in concert. So who was the first artist you saw in concert?
My first show ever was, it was the Backstreet Boys, and they were opening for a Swiss pop art act called DJ Bobo. And DJ Bobo's still around. He's still making jams, mostly in Switzerland. But yeah, at the time, Backstreet Boys were on their like big, Europe tour before they kind of broke big over here. And they were opening for DJ Bobo. And yeah, we went to go see the show and loved it.
I love that. Shout out DJ Bobo. That's my new guy. I'm gonna get a DJ Bobo tattoo. All right, the last artist you saw in concert.
Oh man, did we go see a show? Yeah, we saw Olivia Dean in
no way. Is it actually
in Boston? Yeah, we saw her in Boston last November.
That is actually incredible. The Olivia Dean trifecta is complete. Holy smokes. Totally unplanned, listeners. That is something that is what you get on the J card, that kind of Olivia Dean fandom.
I don't know if I'm the target demographic.
Do you run the fan club? Were you ever a member of a fan club ever? I feel like maybe we were just past that moment. I feel like there's a show I listen to called You Talking You Two to Me, and those guys always talk about how in the 80s they were members of these fan clubs where you could pay a penny and they would send I guess like a 45 every year or something like that. And I was like, man, I don't think we had that. We were just past that, you know?
Yeah. But I don't know if I'd want to be a part of a fan club, you know?
No, unless you're getting something really good, I guess, out of it. I don't know what that could be. Maybe like, you know how they would do it nowadays? You'd get like pre-sale access or something.
I think that is what it is. Yeah, you're right.
So that sucks. That's way less romantic than a 45.
Yeah.
I guess it's got more value. Who the fuck knows? All right, Martin, why don't you tell the people a little bit about what you're up to, where they can find you, where they can find Ballroom Thieves, Little Revolution, all that.
Yeah. So Ballroom Thieves, we're working on a new record right now, and you can go to ballroomthieves.com, I before E, or what we would prefer is if you join our Patreon, because we've been putting a lot of stuff on there, essentially documenting the creation of the album from start to finish in real time. So that's kind of what we're focusing our time on right now when we're not busy keeping our little human alive. And Little Revolution, you can find at lrartists.com. You can find me at martin@lrartists.com if you want to send me an email. If you are in a band and you feel like you should have agency representation, feel free to hit me up and I'll listen to your music.
Damn, you hear that, artist? You got the actual email right from the source. I feel like usually people, they'll keep that little private, and you're like, just hit me up. You know where to find me.
Yeah.
Listeners, viewers, as always, you can join the Rue Defense Tape Club by going to tapeclub.substack.com. Every quarter, we send out these little mixtapes, little compilation cassettes. This is the one from December 2025. And if we have some old ones and you just joined, we'll send you some of the backlog too.
You should do 45s.
I know, we should do penny 45s. What are we thinking? I will say the cassette club thing was like such a romantic idea a year ago. And now I'm just like, oh God, we need more submissions. No one's submitting their fucking music. And that's okay. You know, we'll get there. But if you are hearing this and you're in a band and you need agency representation, you can hit up Martin, or you can just send your tracks to me. I'll just put them on this mixtape for like 5 people to hear. It's going to be great. All right, Martin, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for doing the show today. And listeners and viewers, as always, thank you for listening and viewing. I will catch you next time. See ya. The J-Card podcast is a fully independent production. It is made possible by listeners and viewers just like you. So if you want to support us, tapeclub.substack.com is the place to go.